All right, we got to talk about org changes because let's be honest, your organization probably changes things more than my 14-year-old changes his underwear. Yeah, that's probably the truth. And here's the thing. People don't fear change. They fear propaganda. They fear not being told the truth. They fear sort of being whitewashed with that information. And that's no fun. And so when you go through an organizational change, it's super easy to try to go into manage mode. How do we have the right project plan to make sure we do everything right? And what happens when you do that is you lose the realness, the authenticity, the things that people most want for you to do to get them through that change. So I want to give you just three best practices, little tweaks that I think will help you next time you have to lead your organization through what is the equivalent of having to change underwear. So the first is don't farm out your communications fully. It's so easy, especially the higher you are in the organization, to hand it to your chief of staff, a project manager, your comms or marketing team. And what's going to happen if you do that is they're going to try to pass the test. Yes, they're going to try to like sound smart, get it right, not make you look wrong. And they're going to put a lot of buzzwords and fancy stuffs. And it's going to end up sort of turning people away because they can sniff out that it's the same thing that they hear anytime they get sort of one of those corporate communications. So here's what I suggest instead. I suggest you work with a partner. You actually lead those communications and work with somebody to brainstorm, hold you accountable, make sure your cadence is right, and make sure that you're doing it both through email, that's like the easy one, but also through town halls or team meetings where you're able to have those conversations and have real talk and not just one-way communication. So I suggest instead of like saying, okay, here's what I want to say, write it for me, that you sit with somebody and you have them sort of coach you, but you need to write the words and you need to write them from your heart and what you're talking about. Now, number two, the second best practice I would say is you have to admit what you don't know. That will buy you so much credibility. And this one is kind of hard to do in email, although you can. I really suggest that this happens in, if it's a huge change, maybe it's weekly meetings, or if it's a longer term change, maybe it's bi-weekly or monthly meetings. And tell them the things that you know and tell them what you don't know with humility. Like, I saw a PowerPoint deck and this is what they know, but let's be honest, this is what they have no idea. And not only does that tell them, okay, I trust them because they're not going to BS me, it also opens up opportunity to get their feedback. What do you guys think? A lot of times, those changes that are up above you, there's still lots of room down below if you're an organization that is not sitting at the C-suite to be able to interpret and make the most out of those. So, get that feedback. Maybe that's with your leadership team, maybe that's with an extended leadership team, or if it's a smaller unit, maybe it's with everyone. And then the last tip is probably my favorite. Invite in the exorcism. That's what I call it. Essentially, it's sort of also like think of Festivus, right? The airing of the grievances. We all know that when change happens, you included, the first thing we do is see the bad stuff. There's a negativity bias. It's proven. Even if you told me tomorrow, Erin, every morning you get to start with chocolate for your breakfast, first thing I'd see is what kind of calories? Da, 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 da. I'd see all the bad things, no matter how great the change is. So why ignore it? So find ways and forums to be able to let people talk about what they don't like about the change, what they're nervous about. And as soon as you have a session that allows that to happen, people also not only have negativity bias, but they're problem solvers. They don't want to hear that completely. So then also open it up for what are you excited about? What are the potential positives of this? What could go right? And so just don't ignore the negative stuff. Let it happen. The metaphor I use is if you've ever taken a dog to dog training, uh, the first thing they do is the dogs are let off the leash and they just run around like crazy because they don't ignore that these dogs have a lot of energy. And when they see other dogs, they need to do that. So I fight it, get it out. It's the same with this. So again, remember that people aren't like they aren't afraid of change. They know it's inevitable. They're just afraid they're not going to be told the full story. They're afraid that they're going to be BS. They're afraid that there's going to be propaganda. And at the end of the day, if you can give them real talk, then they're going to give you their real support.